In a certain town there lived a weaver by the name of Somilak. The cloth he wore was so exquisite that it was fit to be worn by king, but somehow he could earn only just enough to make two ends meet. On the other hand, the other weavers who produced inferior cloth had become very rich. Seeing this, the weaver said to his wife, "My dear, look at this. These weavers produce inferior cloth and yet they have become rich, while I remain poor. I'm fed up with this place. I mean, to go to some other kingdom and make money there." His wife replied, "My dear husband, you are quite wrong in thinking that you will earn money somewhere else when you can't make it here. For they say, what is not predestined, do what you will, can never happen. What is not predestined will even come into your hand and yet slip away. But what destiny has planned will surely come to pass without your help, for destiny and action go hand in hand. The one is as much a part of the other as light and shade. And as a calf will find out its mother amongst 1,000 cows, so destiny selects its performers from amongst the masses." His wife continued, "And so, carry on working here." The weaver said, "My dear, what you say isn't true, for they say no plan can succeed without determined effort, any more than you can clap with one hand. Even if destiny makes food available, you have to stretch out your hand and take it. It does not fall into your mouth any more than a deer falls into the mouth of reclining lion. It's the people who make a determined effort who succeed. As they say, Lakshmi bestows her favors on the zealous man. She scorns the ideal who depend entirely on luck. So brush destiny aside and try with all your might. If you still fail, find out what went wrong." The weaver continued, "And so, my dear, I have made up my mind to go somewhere else." Soon afterwards, the weaver left his hometown and went to Vardhamanpura. He lived there for 3 years and earned 300 pieces of gold. Then he started off on his journey home. He was halfway home and still deep in the jungle when the sun set. For fear of the wild animals, he climbed up a big banyan tree and went to sleep there. While he slept, he had a dream. He saw two terrifying looking people arguing with each other. One of them to the other said, "Action! Why did you allow Somilika to earn 300 pieces of gold? Don't you know that he is destined to earn only what he requires for his food and clothing?" The other replied, "Destiny, what could I do? This man put in a great effort and I had to reward him according to his actions. But it is still for you to decide how much he is going to retain. So why blame me?" When the weaver woke up, he peered into his bundle and found that the gold coin had disappeared. He began to think sadly, "Oh, whatever has happened? I took so much time and trouble to earn this money and it has vanished in a moment. All my efforts were in vain. How can I show my face to my wife and friends in this poverty stricken condition?" And so he decided not to continue the journey home and he returned to Vardhamanpura. In a year's time, he had earned 500 gold coins. Once more, he started off on his homeward journey as before. Halfway home, he was still deep in the jungle when the sun set. For fear of losing his gold coins, as on the previous occasion, he did not stop to rest but continued to walk fast, even though he was very tired. After a while, he heard voices. Two men were talking. One of them to the other said, "Action! Why did you let Somalika earn 500 gold pieces? Don't you know that he is destined to earn only what he requires for his food and clothing?" The other replied, "Destiny, what could I do? The man put in a great effort and I had to reward him according to his actions. But it is still for you to decide how much he is going to retain. So why blame me? When Somilaka heard this, he peered into his bag and found that the gold coins had disappeared. He was so utterly disheartened that he thought to himself, "Oh, what is the good of living if I have lost my money? I shall hang myself from this banyan tree." And so he wove a rope of grass, made a noose, and tied the rope to the tree. He put the noose around his neck and was just about to throw himself down when he heard a voice from heaven. The voice said, "Somilak, stop. Don't do such a thing. It is I, Destiny, who stole your gold coins. I cannot bear that you should earn even a cowrie more than what you require for your food and clothing. But I am pleased with your industrious spirit. I have not revealed myself to you in vain. Ask any boon of me, and I will grant it." So Milak replied, "Very well then, please give me a lot of money." The voice asked, "But what will you do with money that you can't make use of? You are not destined to earn more than what you require for your food and clothing." So Milak said, "Even if I can't enjoy it, please give it to me. For a man who has riches is always well received by everyone, even if he is a miser or of lower caste." The voice from the sky said, "Ah, but first return to Vardhamanpura and go to the homes of two merchants. One is called Guptadhan and the other Upabhoktadhan. When you have studied their behavior, come back and tell me whether you would prefer to be like Guptadhan and have money but not enjoy it, or to be like Upabhoktadhan and have no surplus money because you enjoy spending all what you have." Then the voice in the sky ceased. And so Somilak started back to Vardhamanpura in a dazed condition. By evening, he reached the city absolutely worn out. He inquired for Guptadhan's house and finally arrived there. Although Guptadhan, his wife, and his son objected very strongly, he forcibly entered their house and became their guest. When it was mealtime, they gave him food, but in a most insulting manner. When he had finished eating, he went off to bed. While he slept, he heard the same two people talking. One of them to the other said, "Action, why did you force Guptadhan to provide Somilak with a meal when he gave it so begrudgingly? Don't you know that Guptadhan is destined to have money but not enjoy spending it on himself or others?" The other replied, "Destiny, what could I do? Somilak's need had to be provided for, and Guptadhan did it according to his own miserly nature. But it is for you to decide the final outcome, so why blame me?" Early the following morning, when Somilak got up, he found that Guptadhan had an attack of cholera and couldn't eat all day. Then Somilak went on to Upabhoktadhan's house. He was welcomed with open arms. His hosts provided him with excellent bathing facilities and gave him new clothes. Afterwards, he dined lavishly. At night time, he retired to a comfortable bed and went to sleep. While he slept, he heard the same two people talking. One of them to the other said, "Action, why did you allow Upabhoktadhan to entertain Somilak so extravagantly, even to the extent of asking for credit at the grocer's? Don't you know the Upabhoktadhan is destined to have no surplus money because he enjoys spending all what he has?" The other replied, "Destiny, what could I do? Somilaka's need had to be provided for, and Upabhoktadhana did it according to his own generous nature. But it is for you to decide the final outcome, so why blame me?" Early next morning, one of the king's servants arrived and brought money for Upabhoktadhana. When Somilak saw this, he said, "The Upabhoktadhana is not a rich man, and yet he is better off than Guptadhan. Let destiny make me like Upabhoktadhan." His wish was granted, and he began to enjoy his money to the full just like Upabhoktathan. Manthara continued. And so that's why I said a wise man uses his wits to make money, but avoids being a miser. For he may be destined to lose his money, the art is in learning how to enjoy it. This is what Somilak learned in the deep jungle. Manthara continued. Hiranyak, knowing this, one should not worry about riches. If someone has riches and is unable to enjoy them, it's the same as if he had nothing. It is true what they say. A man should use his money to provide for his necessities and to give to charity, but not to hoard. For the bees hoard their honey and people take it away, even if he hoards it to give to others. It's still not a good thing, for it's like handling mud and then washing your hands. Contentment is what he should aim at, for this is the source of joy. But how can a greedy miser ever understand the meaning of joy? Now, snakes can live on next to nothing, and elephants eat only green stuff. Great sakes live on nothing but fruits and herbs, but all these are strong, for they are content with what they have. But what will a man not do for money? He will cast a slur on the righteous and praise the wicked. When the Mantharak had finished speaking, the crow turned to the mouse and said, My friend, what Mantharak has said just now is very true and should be put into practice. Don't mind his talking like this. Only a real friend will say something unpalatable for your own good. The rest are friends only in name. While they were taking a steak by the name of Chitrang turned up on the scene, he was in a state of panic because the hunters were after him. When they saw him coming, the crow flew up a tree, the mouse slipped into the bushes, and Manthara crawled into the lake. When the crow had been watching the steak carefully for a short time, he called out to the turtle, Mantharak, come out, it's all right. This steak has only come to quench his thirst. But Mantharak, who was a great observer of human nature, replied, No, no, Laghupatnak, I don't think this steak has come to drink water. He is panting for breath and looking fearfully over his shoulder. I think he is being pursued by hunters. Go and find out whether I am right or not. So the crow flew off. Then the snake said, Turtle, you have understood why I am frightened. I escaped the hunter's arrow and have managed to get this far. Now I beg of you, show me some place to hide where the hunters can't reach me. Mantharak replied, Snake, listen to the Niti Shastra. There are two ways of rescuing yourself from the clutches of an enemy. You can use your hands to fight or your feet to run. So, in this case, before the wicked hunters arrive, run into the deep jungle over there, and he pointed out the direction. Meanwhile, the crow, who had gone to see whether the hunters were about or not, returned and went after the stake. Chitrang, he called, It's all right. The wicked hunters have killed many animals and have gone with the carcasses. You can come out of the jungle. And so the four of them got friendly, and from the time onwards would meet every day at noon under the shady trees on the bank of the lake and discuss morals and philosophy. In this way, they spent their time very happily. One day it was noon, but Chitrang had failed to turn up. The other three got frightened and said to each other, How is it that our friend has not come? Has he been killed by a lion, or shot by the hunter's arrow, or been burnt in a forest fire, or caught in a trap? Or has he fallen in a deep pit whilst trying to reach fresh grasses? Then Mantharak said to the crow, Laghupatnak, Hiranyak, and I move slowly. So we can't possibly go looking for Chitra, but you can fly fast. You had better go and search for him to see if he is alive or dead. Laghupatnak started off promptly, but he had flown only a short distance when he discovered Chitrang caught in a net on the bank of the lake. When the crow saw him, he was very upset and said to him, My dear fellow, how did this happen? When the stag saw the crow, he too showed great distress, and with tears in his eyes, he said, I'm on the verge of death. I'm very glad that you have found me before I die, because I want to say to you that if I have ever thoughtlessly said or done anything unkind to you, please forgive me. And please say the same to Hiranyak and Mantharak on my behalf. Laghupatnak said, But Chitrang, please don't give up hope. When you have friend like us, I shall hurry back and fetch Hiranyak. Don't be afraid. In this way, the crow put courage in the stag's heart and quickly flew to Hiranyak and Mantharak and told them about Chitrang's captivity. The mouse said he would rescue Chitrang and jumped on the crow's back. Then the two of them made their way swiftly to where Chitrang was. When Chitrang saw them, his spirits brightened, and he said, The wise choose good friends, for with their help it is possible to survive every calamity. Then Hiranyak said to Chitrang, My friend, you know the Niti Shastra so well. How was it then that you got caught in this trap? Chitrang replied, Hiranyak, please, this isn't the time for discussion. Bite off these meshes and free me before the hunter returns. Hiranyak said, Now that I'm here, you need not worry about the hunters. But when people like you get caught in traps, whatever is the good of studying Niti Shastra? Chitrang said, But if fate is hostile, even your knowledge of Niti Shastra does not help you. As they say, when destiny frowns on him, even a sage may lose his power of thought. What is predestined cannot be avoided even by the great. While they were discussing this, Mantharak, who was worried about his friend's welfare, also arrived on the scene. When Laghupatnak saw him coming, he said, Oh no, look, Hiranyak. Hiranyak said, What? Is the hunter coming? Laghupatnak retorted, Hunter, nothing. It's Mantharak who is coming. How silly of him. If the hunter arrives, we shall all be in danger because of him. For I can easily fly away. You, Hiranyak, can slip into a hole, and Chitrang, when he is freed, can run. But what can this water dweller do to save himself? That's what worries me. Meanwhile, Mantharak reached them. Friend, said Hiranyak, you have done a silly thing in coming here. You had better go back as quickly as you can before the hunter arrives. Mantharak said. But Hiranyak, what else could I do? I couldn't bear to sit and think of my friends suffering, so I came here. I would rather lose my life than lose friends like you. We can get our lives back in the next birth, but not the friends we have lost. While they were talking, the hunter appeared with an arrow fixed to his bow. As soon as they saw him approaching, Hiranyak quickly finished biting off Chitrang's meshes and the stag bolted. Laghupatnak flew to the top of a tree and Hiranyak slipped into a hole nearby. The hunter was very disappointed to see the stag escape. But when he saw Mantharak slowly dragging himself towards the lake, he thought to himself, Fate has snatched away the stag from me, but at least it has sent this turtle for my food. His flesh will satisfy my whole family. And so the hunter caught the turtle and tied him up with a net of grass blades. And slinging him on his shoulder beside his bow, he started off for home. When Hiranyak saw the turtle being carried away, he was heartbroken and he said, Oh, what a dreadful thing to happen to us! Hardly had we got over one trouble when the other was upon us. Disasters never come singly. Destiny has destroyed my hoard of food, has also snatched away my friend, and a friend like Mantharak is not easy to find. Destiny, why are you showering me with arrows of misfortune? First, I lost my hoard of food, then I was separated from my friend and family. Then I had to leave my home, and now, as if all that wasn't enough, my dearest friend has been snatched away from me forever. Such is the fate of all living creatures, they say. You get more cuts where there's already a wound, and when the money is short, you feel more hungry than usual. And when you are already in trouble, your enemies multiply. and when you are weak, most evils arise. Meanwhile, Laghupatnak and Chitrang arrived where Hiranyak was, their eyes flooded with tears. Hiranyak said, "You can stop crying and do something about it before Mantharak get out of sight. You must think of a plan to save him. As they say, when calamity strikes, to cry serves no purpose. It only increases the sorrow." The crow said, "You are right. Listen, I have a plan. Let Chitrang lie on the ground in the hunter's path as though he was dead. I will sit on his head and pretend to peek at his eyes with my beak. Then the hunter will think Chitrang is really dead and he will drop Mantharak and run after Chitrang. The minute he does this, Hiranyak must start beating the grass net and set Mantharak free. Mantharak will then make for the lake as fast as he can. Meanwhile, Chitrang, I shall tell you the right moment to get up and make a dash to safety before the hunter can reach you." Chitrang said, "What an excellent plan! I take it for granted that Mantharak is as good as free. As they say, a wise man's instinct tell him if a plan is going to succeed or not." And so they carried out Laghupatnak's plan. The hunter was going along the bank of the lake when suddenly he saw a stag lying in his path and a crow peeking at his eyes. Delighted with the sight, he said, "This is the same stag that slipped from my clutches and escaped into the jungle. Perhaps he has died of exhaustion. Well, the turtle is safely tied up, so I will drop him and catch the stag. Then I shall have them both." And so he put down the turtle and approached the stag. In the meantime, Hiranyak quickly bit the meshes with his sharp teeth, and Mantharak crawled to the safety of the lake. Chitrang, prompted by the crow, also made a dash to safety, and Hiranyak and Laghupatnak also flee to safety. The hunter looked dejectedly after the bolting stag and then returned to the place where he had dropped the turtle. He was astonished to find him gone. He stood amazed and sadly addressed his fate in the following words: "Destiny, a fat stag that was caught in my net was snatched away from me by you. A turtle vanished at your command. Here I am, wandering solitary and hungry in the jungle. If there is something else you want to do to me, then do it now. I am ready to bear it." After crying out in this way for some time, he finally went home. When the hunter was gone, the four friends came out of the hiding place and danced with delight. They hugged each other joyfully and returned to their usual place on the bank of the lake. They felt as though they had been reborn. From then on, they spent their time very happily talking to each other about philosophy and morals. And so it is wise to make an effort to make friends and to behave straightforwardly towards them. For he who makes friends and never deceives them shall trump over all his troubles. And this is the end of the second tantra. So, I'll start reading the third tantra in my next video. Till then, keep listening beautiful stories and keep smiling.